Do you guys see the stream? Now it says I'm live. But I've been live like the whole time though. Now it says I'm live. Hold on, are you guys seeing the stream now or what happened? No, we should be live. Hold on, what happened here? Yeah, I'm live. Did I never press the go live button? No, I can see the whole thing. Let me go back here. Oh, but why is it only... Wait a minute, I've been talking for like 90 minutes. I've been talking for 90 minutes. The whole time we've been talking about technology stuff, and I saw the chat, but I guess, like, what the heck? I don't know how that happened. I've been talking to myself for 90 minutes. The whole time. Wow. Wait, I don't understand how that happened, though, because... Hold on, let me check something. That is so weird. Somehow... Wow, Tech Thursdays is... This episode is really messed up. Okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah, apparently it's only live now. Wow, okay. Well, I apologize, everyone. I've been live. I've been talking to myself for 90 minutes. And you guys have been here the whole time. I apologize. Wow. I blew through all the tech news and started getting into the main theme. And then I'm like, wow, no one really seems interested in this. And they're having their own little conversation. And then okay. Well, how come when I asked earlier if there was a problem, I did get a response. Steven was like, we hear you, man. Copy, and I'm confused. So no one was hearing me talk. The whole time it wasn't live. Wow. Okay, well, wow, okay. Okay, well, I apologize. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't know if we should start over or just pick up from where I was talking. Oh, I guess we got kind of have to start over. All right, well, and on this episode of Tech Thursdays, we're going to talk about primarily CPUs for 2026. So this discussion is mainly going to be about Intel's upcoming CPUs, AMD's upcoming CPUs in both mobile as well as desktop. But I think most people that watch this channel are more interested in desktop, so we might skip a lot of the mobile stuff. I literally spent an hour talking about mobile CPUs like Panther Lake. I don't know if we need to go through all of that again. Basically, let's just run through it real quick. So Intel's Panther Lake, powered by the new Cougar Cove and the Darkmont E-cores, takes the lead over AMD's Zen 5 and IPC. And if you look here, there's like a leaked, or maybe this is a official review, or I don't know if it was leaked early, based out of Taiwan, I believe. Or maybe China, but basically what it shows here is that at 100%, which is Darkmont's low power efficiency core, the Lion Cove, Skymont, Zen 5, Zen 5C, Cougar Cove, Darkmont, all these guys, they are roughly 10% faster with Cougar Cove and about on par with Darkmont. Meaning, Intel's new E-core keep in mind, we're talking about the E-core. Darkmont E-core is on par with the previous generation P-core, Lion Cove, and Zen 5. So E-cores from Intel historically have never really been considered that powerful. Now, with Panther Lake's new Darkmont E-core, they're saying, according to these benchmarks, at least Spec CPU 2017, the E-core of Panther Lake is close to the performance of a Zen 5 mobile core and Intel's previous generation Arrow Lake P core. So that is pretty interesting that the E core is that good. So when you do all this math, you average all this out, at the end of the day, the new P core in Panther Lake is about 10% faster than Zen 5 and Intel's previous generation P core. So interesting stuff when it comes to Arrow Lake, or not Arrow Lake, with Panther Lake. AMD fires back and did a whole rebuttal. I don't know how true a lot of what AMD is claiming is. AMD is basically saying that comparing Panther Lake, or whatever they're declaring this, I guess Intel Core Ultra X9 is Panther Lake. They're saying if you compare it to Strix Halo, aka Ryzen AI Max, AMD is basically going to win in everything, according to AMD. Now, this is expected performance. Expected performance in the thin and light category. Keep in mind, everything that we're talking about here are all laptops. This is all mobile stuff or mini PCs. Thin and light, Intel Core Ultra 9 or 7 against Ryzen AI 400. AMD is expecting to win in both content creation and gaming. And when they say gaming, they're talking about integrated graphics. And then for AI use cases, they are expected to win in CPU, be similar in NPU, and lose in graphics. So AMD is acknowledging that the integrated graphics on the Core Ultra 300 is expected to be better than their current GPU or integrated GPU that's paired up with Zen 5. And then the same thing, same story for mainstream. And then for entry level, AMD's just straight up declaring win-win-win. So it's like, okay, that's a gutsy move to just declare that they're gonna win in like all categories at entry level. I would say this: Intel's mobile platform is very competitive with AMD, but AMD is also very competitive with Intel in the mobile space. Mobile space is truly the most competitive arena when it comes to CPU performance right now. In desktop, there's clearly one that's better than the other. But in mobile, Intel and AMD are pretty strong against each other. The biggest advantage that Intel has, from my point of view, Intel offers a chipset similar to what they give you on a motherboard. They offer a chipset to a laptop OEM so that if they want to, they can offer a lot of connectivity that you normally wouldn't get in that laptop. So for example, if you are looking at a gaming laptop, Intel CPUs, gaming laptops with Intel CPUs today with Arrow Lake laptop CPUs tend to offer more options in terms of connectivity. Things like 3 or in some cases 4 NVMe drives in a laptop. You cannot do that, or at least not with full lane connectivity on an AMD based laptop, at least not with the current SoCs that AMD has today with the Ryzen AI 300 series or even the Ryzen 9000 series in the laptop space. So Intel has a lot of lanes available when it comes to laptops, and that's, I think, their biggest advantage versus AMD. In terms of energy efficiency, they're both very similar. In terms of battery life, they're also both very similar. I would say in mainstream and entry level, AMD is going to win in battery life compared to Intel. But in premium and thin and light, it goes back and forth. It depends on what you're comparing. If you're looking at like an Intel Ultrabook with Lunar Lake, Lunar Lake's going to have a lot of battery life. But if you go and look at if you start looking at gaming laptops, like if the laptop has a Ryzen 9000, like a 9955 HX 3D, that thing is not going to have good battery life. It's going to have terrible battery life compared to an Intel HX. But on the flip side, if you take an Intel HX or an Intel H series and you compare it to a Ryzen AI 400 or a Ryzen AI 300, AMD is going to beat Intel big time in battery life. This was one of the key metrics that I used personally to select my new laptop last holiday season. That was that HP Omen Max. I went with that one because that was the only laptop that gave me an RTX 5080 laptop GPU for way under $2,000, while also providing a Ryzen AI 9 HX 375, which is a golden sample mobile chip for AMD Ryzen, the flagship 12-core, 24 threads, monolithic, with the best integrated graphics, in addition to having an RTX 5080 inside with dual SSDs. So that right there is the best laptop you can find if you're looking for a gaming laptop. But those laptops are kind of rare. Most of them are going to have worse battery life. They're going to run really hot and really loud. And they're just not going to be a premium experience overall. So you have to really do your research and really know what you're looking for. Now, these other statements from AMD are kind of hilarious. I don't know who wrote this stuff from their marketing department, but this is kind of outrageous stuff. No matter Intel's claims, AMD is expected to have the fastest processors for AI PCs. Intel claims the Core Ultra X9 388H, that's aka Panther Lake, graphics is in a league of its own. Ryzen AI Max 395 Plus processor has 37% in all caps faster graphics versus Panther Lake. So they can figure that out. They can declare that because they can kind of know what Panther Lake is doing based off of the leaked benchmarks. All right. Intel claims Panther Lake has huge performance scaling and leadership productivity. And then the rebuttal is the Ryzen AI Max 39. Okay, so the weird thing is, and this is where I need to probably do more research on Panther Lake. All of these comparisons is basically stating or implying that Panther Lake is a competitor to Strix Halo. If that's true, Panther Lake should have something like 128 gigabytes of soldered memory running at some insanely high speed, and they need to have like a high core count, high thread count, all that stuff. Because Strix Halo, Ryzen AI Max is like no joke. You don't want to go against Ryzen AI Max 395 Plus unless you really are prepared, unless you have trained to the max. Going up against that thing, that would be like trying to go take on Beerus from Dragon Ball Z Super. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just go and fight Beerus unless you really, truly know that you're ready. Because this is like, man, like, okay, Panther Lake, I don't know, what is Panther Lake? Vegeta? Like, God mode something or whatever? Like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. But anyway, Intel claims Core Ultra X9 388H has leading x86 power efficiency. And the rebuttal, I like how they use all caps. Intel's own data shows almost no advantage. Keyword almost. In power efficiency and battery life compared to Lunar Lake. So they're comparing it to they're making a statement using Intel's data to compare two Intel parts. Like, I don't know. That to me seems kind of petty. Like, I don't even know why they're doing that, to be honest. That's weird. But here Intel's like, hey man, look at this. Right? AI, the AMD AI. They don't want to say the word Ryzen because it's like they don't want to build more mindshare by introducing their competitors' names. They're just gonna say AMD AI 365, whatever that is. I think it's like a Ryzen 7. They're like AMD AI 365. Look at us. We use less power. We're more energy efficient. Okay, that's good. I mean, the thing is, here's the thing to keep in mind. Ryzen AI 300 launched in the summer of 2024. So if you're not using like 1/3 less power than a chip that's gonna be 2 years old in a couple of months, then it's not gonna look very good. You know what I'm saying? So, but I do like this, up to 78% lower SoC power. So really, really good stuff there. And then Intel made no claims about the rest of their stack. AMD expects major processing graphics wins. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, that remains to be seen, AMD. That remains to be seen. They better be able to back up those claims because, oh, okay, I see what they mean. They're gonna, because they're saying the rest of their stack. They're not talking about Panther Lake in this statement. AMD is expecting major wins against whatever Intel's other thing is that's not Panther Lake, is what they're saying. Basically, the rebadged Arrow Lakes. Because that's probably what the rest of the stack is going to be, if we're being honest here. So it's going to be a bunch of rebrands this year in the mobile space, except for Panther Lake. I don't know. I think it's going to be a bunch of rebrands from both sides this year. This year is not going to be an interesting year for mobile compared to last year. Last year and 2024 were fascinating years. Now, there is one thing in mobile that I do want to bring out or talk about that is interesting, and that is going to be NVIDIA. NVIDIA plans to launch their own CPU-based laptops, ARM CPUs made by NVIDIA or designed by NVIDIA, made by TSMC. So this is going to be similar to Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite. So if you guys remember, this was summer 2024. So yeah, like about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago in a couple of months. Qualcomm made a big splash at Computex last, or 2024 summer, and they showed off a bunch of laptops, and Microsoft was backing them up with Windows on ARM, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is the beginning of the end for x86," and Intel and AMD formed the x86 Consortium Alliance. They basically signed a truce to shore up against the impeding threat of ARM creeping into the consumer market. Well, we all know how that kind of played out. AMD and Intel didn't have to do anything. Basically, ARM just kind of like fell apart. It just tripped over itself and fell, and then proceeded to like roll down the hill into a ditch because of software incompatibility problems and poor user experience and mostly software related issues with Windows on ARM just not working and not living up to the hype. Essentially, that's what happened. So fast forward now almost 2 years, and the rumored NVIDIA CPUs are finally going to show up. So it's almost like, I think of it like Mortal Kombat. It's like a new challenger, Qualcomm Snapdragon, and then it just kind of fatalities itself. And then now it's like, oh, a new challenger. The NVIDIA N1 and N1X have arrived, you know? So, it'll be interesting to see how NVIDIA does this differently than Qualcomm. Qualcomm was relying heavily on Microsoft to support them, and both sides just kind of fumbled the ball really, really bad. So we'll see if NVIDIA can make a big splash and succeed where Qualcomm failed. This is going to look like NVIDIA is competing against Qualcomm, and they are, but Qualcomm, I think the greater threat here, or the greater competition, is actually NVIDIA versus AMD and Intel. Or it's more like ARM versus x86 in laptops round 2. This is like the sequel. You know, like 2024 was the original. This year is going to be the sequel to that. But very interesting stuff. This is similar to the chip that powers the DGX Spark. That was basically the blueprint for the N1 and the N1X. So it features up to 20 ARM cores divided into 2 clusters of 10 each. So think of it like almost like a dual CCD Ryzen with 10 cores in each CCD. I know I'm oversimplifying it by saying that, but it's kind of like that because they've got they're calling them clusters of 10 cores each, supported by 16 megabytes of shared L3, each having private L2 storage. The memory subsystem has a unified LPDDR5X 9400 fabric on a 256-bit bus, supporting up to 128 gigabytes of memory. So yeah, this is very similar to DGX Spark. It's basically like, it's probably going to be like a cut down, majorly cut down in different SKUs, DGX Spark CPU meant for consumer laptops. So interesting that they're pushing this. I feel like NVIDIA has had to make a lot of key choices in terms of how they divvy up their wafer allocation from TSMC. But it looks like they're trying to push into the consumer CPU market with laptops, which is fascinating. Now, on the flip side, they're also going to begin offering Vera, which is their latest generation CPU, meant for data center, so think servers and AI factories, as a standalone competitor to Intel's Xeon and AMD's EPYC processors. So this is kind of like, this is the biggest headache that the CEO at Intel would, this is going to give him a migraine. Like, seriously, like, seeing this article, like, if I was a CEO at Intel and this pops up in my news feed, this would just ruin my day. It's like, really? First of all, we have Amazon and these other customers that are not actually loyal because they've gone and they've made their own ARM CPUs, which cuts into the Xeon sales. And then, of course, AMD with their annoying EPYC CPUs that keep... It's like Intel has a yard, like a lawn, and EPYC is like this mold that keeps growing at the edge of the lawn, and it's slowly eating away the grass, and it's just infiltrating into the lawn, making it look really bad. Now you have this Vera thing showing up as some random construction company, like some city utility people, drilling holes in the lawn because they're gonna like lay some pipes or something. It's just gonna tear up Intel's yard and just make it look even worse. So it's just like, really, man, it's like you can't catch a break. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now of all companies, it's got to be NVIDIA, like the most annoying one to compete against. Like, really? What? Like, man, Xeon just can't seem to catch a break. Now this, it's like first you have Google and Amazon and all these boys just making their own CPUs because they can. And then you got AMD over there clawing away, scratching away like someone's scraping on the chalkboard, annoying your ears to no end. And then now you got this thing showing up. Like, if I was a CEO reading this, I would really start thinking about how many years until retirement. How many more years do I need to stick to this job, man? Like, can I retire now or what? Like, is the board gonna just let me go? Golden parachute me away? You know what I'm saying? Like, reading this, if I was an Intel executive, like, oh man, no, please stop. NVIDIA, go away, NVIDIA. Please stop, go away. Like, this is like, what is this? Like, what? Because think about it. First, it used to be NVIDIA would sell their CPU as an fully integrated solution with their AI pod. So you're basically, you're buying Grace is a CPU, and you're buying Blackwell, the GPU. And you're buying them as a package deal, a combo bundle deal, like those Micro Center bundles. You know what I'm saying? You're getting both. You can't buy them separately. Now, NVIDIA's offering the CPU separately. So it's like, now if you want to just buy the CPU, I don't know why they're doing this. It's interesting. Like, what's the use case here, NVIDIA? Like, what are you doing? Are you doing this because You don't have enough GPUs? Maybe you're running into allocation issues? And you have an excess stock of Vera? So what are you going to do? You're going to throw these in an AI pod that's got Radeon, MI, whatever in there or something? Like, what is this? So it's interesting seeing this. This and this are probably the two most interesting things that we're going to hear about NVIDIA this year. Vera CPUs sold separately and laptop chips. ARM-based NVIDIA laptops that are 100% NVIDIA. No AMD, no Intel, 100% NVIDIA. NVIDIA CPU plus NVIDIA GPU, if they're going to do an NVIDIA GPU. I don't know about that. But NVIDIA CPU plus NVIDIA GPU integrated or whatever. So, very, very interesting stuff from NVIDIA. NVIDIA is relentless. Okay, let's talk about the big topic. Well, actually, we'll come back to this. Hold on. Now because I wasn't even live, we're going to talk about the thing that I was talking about before I realized I wasn't actually live. So let's recap the big hardware release of the week, the launch or the reviews of the Ryzen 7 9850X 3D. 9850X 3D, if you guys tuned into yesterday's live stream, it was a gaming-based live stream featuring Strix Halo. We briefly talked about this. What I'll say about it is I see this part as a CPU for two different audiences. One, extreme overclockers. When I say extreme overclockers, I'm not talking about someone who's going to buy this chip, throw it in an Asus ROG Hero, and try to, like, mess with PBO. That is not extreme overclocking. That is casual. That's casual. That's not hardcore overclocking. So those people are not going to buy this. The people, I mean, some of them might, regardless of what I say, but the people, when I say extreme enthusiast overclockers, I'm talking about people like those that are going to put this thing on dry ice or a chiller or LN2. People who want to delit it potentially, direct die overclock with a chiller. Basically, people who are going to chase the leaderboards in the overclocking community or the extreme overclock XOC community. Those people might be interested in this because this CPU is basically a factory overclocked 9800X3 that has already been binned to a certain silicon quality or silicon potential level that it can consistently hit 5.6. It is guaranteed to hit 5.6 gigahertz on its best performing cores in low thread workloads. And that is exactly what it does. Now, one of the things that stood out to me about this chip is if we go here to the power consumption, there is a bit of variance, as there always is with CPUs, as there always is with anything that's like a silicon electronic device. There is variance. I looked at a lot of reviews on this CPU, and some reviewers got really golden samples. One that comes to mind is Linus Tech Tips. Linus Tech Tips probably got a golden sample, because if you go and look at the Linus review of this CPU, the chip that they reviewed was pulling like 23, 26 watts while getting like 7% better performance than the 9800X3D. That is a golden sample, because what that means is that CPU is able to boost to 5.6 at like the same wattage of a normal 9800X 3D. The one that Tech Power Up has here, notice how they're doing 36 watts. This is similar to the review sample that Gamers Nexus got, where they were seeing, on average, higher power per core or per frequency when they're at lower thread count. So that indicates to me that there's enough variance in the silicon lottery here that some of these are going to perform really well in terms of low wattage, high frequency. Others are going to need more juice, more wattage, more vCore in the microcode at stock, where they're going to pull like 36 watts to get to that advertised 5.6 boost algorithm. So that's basically what showcases the difference in silicon lottery here. So is it still good for extreme overclockers? Yes, because there is a higher chance that you'll get one of those super golden samples like the one that Linus got, because his was like really good. Okay, but anyway, that's something that stood out to me, because I was thinking, yeah, this is the sort of thing that is for extreme overclockers. So they're going to be looking at these reviews. They're going to notice stuff like that, because you go look at full load, it's going to run at its rated TDP. It's going to hit the same wattage that a normal 9800X3D is going to hit, and the clocks are going to fall down to like 5 gigahertz, 5.1 gigahertz under full load, just because that's the nature of how CPUs work. So you want to tell if you have a really good one, you look at the single thread, you look at the wattage on the single thread. The lower, the better. So really interesting stuff here. The other thing I want to say is, if we go to value conclusion, it's $500. $500 for a Ryzen 7 to me seems like a lot of money. So it's really an enthusiast CPU. I do feel like some people, there are some gamers out there that will opt to get one of these, but the type of gamer that's going to buy this is the type of gamer that is not going to overclock. They want to buy this and know that out of the box, they have the fastest performing gaming CPU on the planet. Like, that's basically it. So there's two people that will buy this: extreme overclockers and gamers that are not going to overclock. They're going to leave it stock, throw it in their motherboard, and the way they go, and that's it. And then the other thing too that wasn't really called out in this review, but a lot of other reviewers did do this, was X3D mitigates the need for high-speed DDR5. In a market right now where DDR5 is incredibly expensive, in fact, DDR5, 64 gigs of DDR5 6000 probably costs more money than this CPU. There's a good chance that it does. I haven't looked at the price of DDR5 in a while, but I wouldn't be surprised if 64 gigabytes or 96 gigabytes of DDR5 is more than $500 right now. So that's kind of the market that we're in. So if someone wanted to save money and buy DDR5 4800 or DDR5 5200 or maybe 5600, they could totally get 99% of the performance most of the time with this CPU. And that is a big plus for the X3D design, like being able to sidestep high-speed memory. Is like it's high-speed memory becomes optional, for as an enthusiast system for gaming. So that's really good. But I guess just to tie off here, the good things about it: it's a drop-in socket, so it works on AM5 like all the Zen 5 CPUs. Fastest gaming processor, especially at low thread counts. That's because it has that high bin and it can do that high 5.6 out of the box. Good energy efficiency. There's a little bit of variance there, but overall, yes, I would agree. Integrated GPU, no game bar required. Slightly better overclock potential. Yeah, this is only true like if you're going to be doing extreme overclock, though. And that's what they mean by this, is because these are the golden samples, essentially. These are to use an Intel terminology, these are the KS SKUs. These are the enthusiast SKUs. Full speed AVX 512. No risk of E-cores complicating software compatibility. That's not really a big deal anymore. It definitely was back when Intel first launched E-core and P-core. But I would say most of the time today, like, you're not going to have too many problems with applications running on E-cores by mistake. There are still some scenarios where games, especially like older games, might be scheduled incorrectly, especially if you step away from your computer for a while, and when you come back, Windows might have moved the game to the E-cores. That is probably the most common thing that I have seen happen with E-cores. And then you're wondering, like, why does the game feel slightly more latency compared to when I first booted up the game? It's probably because you went AFK, then you came back, and it's like, oh, now your game's actually running on E-cores. So, I mean, that's kind of a common complaint that I've seen, and I've actually seen that myself. ECC support depending on motherboard. All right, high premium for X3D. So the negatives, like I said, it's expensive. $500 for a Ryzen 7. To me, that's a lot of money. Higher gaming power consumption than 9800 X3D. And then no NPU. Okay, this last one, no NPU. This means that a computer with a 9850 X3D cannot get the label from Microsoft as a Copilot Plus PC. So if you're someone who really cares about having that Copilot Plus certification, you want to put that Copilot Plus badge on your computer, you cannot do that, at least not officially, with the Ryzen 7 9850X 3D. Yeah, the show was not supposed to be late. Apparently, I began the stream not realizing that I wasn't live, and basically proceeded to talk for 90 minutes to myself. So I don't know. I will make sure next time that never happens again. But I started thinking, like, I think something's wrong here. The chat's not really responding to me in the way they normally do. And yeah, so anyway. Yeah, I apologize that this was complete. Yeah, I don't even know, because everything looked like it was live, and then all of a sudden I noticed after like 20 minutes of talking, I noticed, like, when I asked the chat a question, no one's responding. But there were chat messages in there, and it's like, well, I mean, I don't know. They're having their own sidebar conversations or something. So I just kept going, and then like 90 minutes later, I'm like, man, something's not right here. Something's not right. No one's responding. No one. Anyway. So now, let me see. Let's bring up. That brings us to the theme of this year, or this stream is 2026 equals 2021. Let me bring up Paint. So I already drew this out while I was talking to myself, so this is kind of spoilers. But the theme of this episode of Tech Thursdays is 2026 equals 2021. That is the topic of this episode of Tech Thursdays. And now, more than ever, it really feels like that statement is true. So, in March and April of this year, there is going to be a new CPU launch from Intel, and it will be known as the Core Ultra 300 series. Backwards compatible with LGA 1851. Drop-in socket. You don't have to buy a new motherboard. All you gotta do is get your Core Ultra 300, update your BIOS, and drop it right into your Z890 motherboard. Now they might launch Z990, brand new motherboards to accompany the Core Ultra 300. It's gonna be the final hurrah of the short-lived LGA 1851. So if you're a big fan of LGA 1851, this is it. This is the time. This is the time to consider upgrading to the Core Ultra 300. It will be known as the Arrow Lake Refresh. So that will happen in the spring of this year. Mark my words. Now, why does 2026 feel like 2021? To know that, to answer that question, we have to go back in time and look at what launched in the spring of 2021. And for that, we need to talk about Rocket Lake, everyone's favorite CPU from Intel, the 11th gen Rocket Lake. And that brings me to the part where I realized I wasn't live. So let's go back in time to, let me go back here to the review of the Core i9 11900K. World's fastest gaming processor? Question mark. March 30th, 2021. The year is 2021. Intel is having to respond to the incredible launch and momentum of AMD's Ryzen 5000. So as this review says, Intel today launched its 11th generation Rocket Lake led by the i9 11900K. This is its long-awaited launch. Intel wants to respond to the AMD Ryzen 5000 series, aka Zen 3 AM4, which snatched overall performance leadership away from the company. Rocket Lake is Intel's first attempt at improving per-core, single-threaded performance in several years through the introduction of the new Cypress Cove CPU core. Intel claims IPC gain over the previous generation up to 19%. 19% over 10th gen. It is an 8-core 16-thread, which is a step backwards from the 10-core 20-thread predecessor, the i9 10900K. But Intel believes that the IPC gain and enhancements to the multi-core boosting algorithm should recover some of the multi-threaded performance despite the 2-core deficit. This is also their attempted hint at the market and software developers that 8 cores should be plenty for gaming. 2021, the 11th gen. So let's go ahead and go to the conclusion. The 11900K is priced at $550. Huge gains in low-thread applications. 8-core Rocket Lake, or 8 Rocket Lake cores, are often faster than 10 Comet Lake cores. Higher application performance than the i9 10900K. The multiplier is unlocked. Now, this is a positive because remember, not all Intel CPUs are overclockable. Only the K SKUs are allowed to be overclocked. They have unlocked multipliers. New overclocking features. Intel's first PCI Express 4.0 CPU. Keep in mind that during this time, anyone who was on AMD had already had access to PCI Gen 4 for almost 2 years at this point. PCI Gen 4 launched alongside Zen 2 back in 2019. That was pre-pandemic. PCI Gen 4 has been around since before the pandemic. Intel finally brought PCI Gen 4 support during the pandemic, like in the second year of the pandemic, via the 11th gen. Compatible with existing Z490. Z490 has no PCI Gen 4. So you got to go to Z590. Z590 is meant for Rocket Lake, but Rocket Lake works on the previous Z490. So this April, I wouldn't be surprised if Intel launches Z990 to entice people to upgrade and even buy a new motherboard. But the thing is, they would have to introduce some kind of feature set that actually justifies discontinuing Z890. So they may or may not do this, because as far as I know, I don't think Intel Core Ultra 300, aka a refresh, will introduce anything that Arrow Lake currently does, if that makes sense. So that we may not get a new motherboard launch from Intel this spring, but I don't know. They may just do a new Z990 just because they need to do a new motherboard. You know what I'm saying? So technically, Z890 is from 2024. That's a 2024 motherboard series. So they kind of need to put something out there. So this thing had a lot of negatives, though. It actually had more negatives than positives. Very high price for what's offered. Lower gaming performance than AMD's Zen 3 5000 series and Core i9 10900K. Only 8 cores versus 10. Application performance can't even match the Ryzen 7 5800X. High power consumption. Lots of heat once power limit unlocked. Oh, one of the cool things that Intel did introduce with the launch of Rocket Lake is thermal velocity boost. That was a brand new thing that accompanied the Rocket Lake launch. So once you did that, you got loads of heat, heating up the room. Only minimal software support for AVX 512 and DL Boost. Gear 1 memory mode unable to run. Yeah, I remember I couldn't get Gear 1 to work at memory speeds above like 2933 DDR4. So the whole Gear 1, Gear 2 thing, this was also the CPU that introduced Gear 1 and Gear 2 with DDR4. And it never worked for me. So I would run mine, I ran mine at Gear 2 DDR4 3200. That's how I ran mine, because I couldn't get it to work in Gear 1 mode at 3200. Now keep in mind, I'm running 4 sticks of memory. I always run 4 sticks of memory. So maybe it's because I insisted on running 4 sticks of RAM. And this is DDR4. Keep that in mind. Many BIOS bugs. Many BIOS bugs, okay. Only one PCI 4.0 M.2. Other M.2 slots are PCI 3.0. So the big problem was there wasn't enough. It's like, yeah, they brought PCI Gen 4, but its usage was very limited with the 11th gen. So it had a lot of negatives. I might actually, I don't know, man. I really like the 11th gen. A lot of people, every time people seem to hate on a CPU, I don't know, maybe I'm just sympathetic for the type of products that get really bad reviews. But I actually really like Rocket Lake. Rocket Lake is probably one of Intel's, it was underwhelming in terms of the gaming performance, but it brought a lot of cool stuff. Thermal velocity boost was introduced. It was the last Intel CPU to have full official AVX 512 support, because Intel removed it after that. And in fact, they forcefully removed it later on with 12th gen, which we're going to talk about. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about 12th gen real soon. But there was a lot of things I like about it, because the 11th gen was a product that was forced to exist due to a lot of bad situations. The engineering team was put into a very bad spot where the node shrink at Intel's fabs was not ready in time. It was delayed. It got delayed multiple times. So and they knew that, like, at this point everyone was so critical of Intel. You guys remember the 14 nanometer plus meme? Like, that was a meme at this point. Everyone was just memeing on them left and right about 14 nanometer plus. 14 nanometer was from like 2015 at this, or 2014 actually. And this is 2021. 7 years of 14 nanometer. 7 years of 14 nanometer. 7 years is the lifespan of an entire gaming console generation. That is the reason why 14 nanometer plus was a legitimate meme that they couldn't get rid of. And then they were forced to live with that meme all the way to the 11th gen. And the 11th gen, guess what? It was 14 nanometer. I got to think about it. Wait for it. It was 14 nanometer plus. It was 14 nanometer plus. It was 5 pluses at that point. 14 nanometer plus is what it was. And it was underwhelming. I remember this was the review that Gamers Nexus called a waste of sand. That was where they coined the phrase waste of sand with this CPU. So it was cool. I always wanted one. I never got one at launch, and then I eventually got one on clearance, like during the holiday season of, I believe, 2022. I ended up buying like a Micro Center bundle for very, very cheap. I think I paid like $189 for the i7 11700K plus a Z590 Asus TUF Wi-Fi Plus motherboard. And yeah, so that's how I have access to Rocket Lake. And yeah, I mean, I played around with it. The Gear 1 was a joke. Like I said, I could never get Gear 1 to work, so everything I would do with it was Gear 2. And it is what it is. I mean, the last time I fired it up was last year for the CPU benchmark video I did for Monster Hunter Wilds. And yeah, it was pretty terrible. It was the worst performing CPU of the entire pack. It was significantly worse than the 5800X and the 12700K. I can tell you that. But yeah, it has not aged well. It has definitely not aged well. It is probably one of Intel's worst aged CPUs. The i9 9900K is almost as good as this thing in gaming. In fact, in a blind test, you would never be able to tell the difference between this and the i9 9900K, which was a CPU from like 2018, which is like 3 years older than this almost, or 2.5 years older, and almost the exact same performance. So pretty terrible. But why are we talking about 11th gen? Remember, the theme of this episode of Tech Thursdays is 2026 equals 2021. So in 2021, Intel had a really bad launch with Rocket Lake. And what does Intel do when they have a very bad launch? Historically, they have to hit the panic button. And when you hit the panic button, what does that mean if you're Intel? Historically, they've done this twice in their history in the last 10 years. What does it mean when they hit the panic button? Prior to 2021, the last time they hit the panic button was 2017. That's the hint. You didn't really love Asus ROG. I don't like that motherboard because that motherboard doesn't have a postcode debug. '12th gen Alder Lake. Have another launch. This is exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. They have to do a double launch. You got to do a double launch. You got to hit that panic button. Press the big red button. Launch something big. Launch something big. You got to go big. November. Fast forward toward the end of the year. You go all the way to Q4. Q4 is the best time of the year to be a hardware tech enthusiast because Q4 is where all the action is. So here we go. November 2021. What happens? First of all, there's something introduced to the world called DDR5. DDR5 launches in Q4 of 2021. That's how old DDR5 is in terms of the consumer market. So there is something else that accompanies DDR5 into the world. And what is that product? Someone's already said it, so I guess we'll just go ahead and roll with it. 12th gen. Enter the 12th gen. 12th gen is the first consumer CPU to introduce PCIe Gen 5 on the graphics card slot. So 12th gen motherboards, aka Z690. Z690 is the oldest motherboard to provide full PCI Gen 5 graphics card support. So I'm going to say PEG only. That means that only the PCIe slot, the top PCIe slot. So GPU only, we'll say. I don't want to say GPU only because it's not just GPU. It's PCIe slot only. Why am I making that distinction? Because these motherboards do not have Gen 5 NVMe slots. They only have one X16 PCIe Gen 5 slot at the top of the motherboard where the graphics card normally goes. You cannot run a Gen 5 SSD in the motherboard itself unless you have something like an Asus Hyper M.2 card or an MSI Expander Aero that has a Gen 5 add-in board to plug that into that Gen 5 slot. But then you can't run your GPU in that slot, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose. But 12th gen was very notable because it was the first CPU generation to launch with a Gen 5 GPU support. And keep in mind, this is 2021. And it was backwards compatible with... It was both backwards and forwards compatible. It supported DDR4 and DDR5. This is probably its most famous ability. The ability to do, besides the whole E-core, P-core thing, but its ability to be backwards compatible with DDR4 and DDR5. This is probably its saving grace because when it launched alongside DDR5, DDR5 launches, you get $800 for 64 gigabyte DDR5 5600. That's how much 64 gigs cost at launch. So you guys can check now and tell me if DDR5 today is currently more expensive than it was at launch. This is the reference number for launch prices of DDR5. $800 for 64 gigabytes of DDR5 5600 CAS latency 30. That is the reference. So you guys can do the search and tell me, is DDR5 currently more expensive than it was in 2021? Or is it less expensive still? But that is the launch price of DDR5. And because it was so expensive, most people, myself included, who bought Intel's 12th gen on launch day in November of 2021 ended up buying a motherboard that uses DDR4. DDR4. So my 12700K spent its entire life paired up with DDR4. I not once ever used it with DDR5. So we may do some content on these older CPUs because they're capable of running DDR4 and memory prices are insane right now. This was the very... Okay, so hold on. No debug. Okay. All right. So you had two Intel CPU launches in 2021. You had DDR5 and you had 11th gen. How was... Let's go ahead and look at the i9-12900K review from Tech Power Up. Let's take a look at this review and see how it's different from the Rocket Lake review. So, Intel Core i9-12900K, fighting for the performance crown. This article was published November 4th, 2021. Here it is, the next generation Intel Core i9-12900K Alder Lake, the tip of Intel's spear against AMD as it looks to regain its position as the top-performing CPU processor maker. The 12th generation of Intel's desktop processors launches in the same year as its 11th gen Rocket Lake, showing just how eager the company is to compete with AMD, which had comprehensively beaten Intel with the Ryzen 5000 series. The new processors herald a new, larger CPU socket. This is where Intel CPUs finally became tall. They became vertical. They became vertically long. Like this PlayStation 5 remote control, for example. They became long like this. Because they used to be square. Like this GameCube memory card. I don't know why I have these things on my desk. Okay. So, the Alder Lake Silicon features two kinds of CPU cores. The larger P cores, or performance cores, and the smaller efficiency cores, or E cores. The Golden Cove P cores offer a massive 28% IPC over the Skylake cores, powering 5 generations of core desktop processors 6 through 10 at an impressive 19% over the Cypress core, which is the 11th gen Rocket Lake. The Gracemont E-cores can, at the right frequency and power, match Skylake cores in performance while occupying a quarter of the die area and a fraction of the power of the P-cores. A combination of the two is how Intel has sneaked up behind the Ryzen... I like this writing, man. Behind the Ryzen 9 5950X Zen 3 16-core 32-thread in its marketing slides. The Intel Threadripper is an on-silicon middleware that works at a low level with the operating system to ensure the right kind of... Okay, so this is all stuff that we already know. But the reason why we're bringing this up is because this is the year. This is it. This is the year where we will see double Intel launches. We will see the analog, the equivalent to the 12th gen launch this year. Just like we will also see the equivalent of the 11th gen launch this year. So, I guess the main thing to be aware of is which is the one to look out for. Or I guess, which one is which. In April of this year, there will be a Arrow Lake refresh. That is going to be the equivalent to the 11th gen that launched in April of 2021. And later this year, in Q4 of this year, Intel will launch a product codenamed Nova Lake. And that will be the equivalent to the 12th gen CPU. So now let's go and look at this. Intel Core Ultra Series 4. So the Core Ultra 300 will be the refresh of Arrow Lake, which will be very similar, and it's probably going to be perceived quite similar to the 11th gen in the reviews. And then later, toward the end of the year, there will be a Nova Lake launch, Intel Core Ultra 400 series, which will be very similar in reception by the media, by the reviewers, to the 12th gen CPU. This is the reason why 2026 is a repeat of 2021, at least for tech enthusiasts, especially Intel enthusiasts. Intel Core Ultra Series 4 Nova Lake processors launch late 2026. Intel is preparing to launch the Core Ultra 4 Nova Lake processor generation toward the end of 2026. CEO Lip Bhutan confirmed this processor generation would span various form factors, including desktop. There it is, desktop. Intel is building its next generation Nova Lake S. That S means desktop. Around a new socket. Here it comes. New socket. So remember, 11th gen was a drop-in upgrade from 10th gen. Just like how Core Ultra 300 will be a drop-in upgrade to the 200 series. However, the Nova Lake will be a brand new socket. Brand new socket. It will be requiring a brand new motherboard. So there is no way to prepare for this until it launches at the end of the year. Just like the 12th gen. It'll be LGA 1954 that replaces the current LGA 1851. The company's planning to release Core Ultra 300 Arrow Lake refresh in the run-up to Nova Lake S by year end. So there you go, guys. Literally what I said earlier and what I've been saying for maybe 2 years now. What feels like, well, not 2 years, because Arrow Lake was 2024. So I feel like I've been saying this for like a year in terms of the time frame. With Nova Lake, Intel is expected to make fundamental changes to its processor design to help the company claw back performance leadership over AMD in the desktop segment. These changes include a doubling in CPU core counts, going up to 16 P cores and 32 E cores, a new iGPU based on Xe3 Celestial graphics, a new NPU that meets Copilot Plus oh yes, here we go. AI PC, oh man. Intel's gonna have the check mark, Copilot Plus certified, just like Lunar Lake, just like Strix Halo, just like Strix Point. Intel will finally have a Copilot Plus certified CPU on desktop, and the introduction of special SKUs with big last level cache. Intel's answer to AMD's 3DV cache. Intel will update the CPU complex with the new Coyote Cove P-cores and the Arctic Wolf E-cores. So this is way different from what I thought. This isn't even like Panther Lake. This is like completely different from Panther Lake. This is like true next gen Intel. This Nova Lake thing. This is true next gen. The same way 12th gen was true next gen when it launched at the end of 2021. Both of which are expected to improve IPC over the current Lion Cove and Skymont combo. Coyote Cove does not... Okay, here we go. Because I was curious to know this. Coyote Cove does not feature hyper-threading. So still, no hyper-threading coming to Nova Lake. Something the Intel CEO wants to see restored on the company's P-cores. But Nova Lake will make up for it with a numerical increase in P-core counts. So very, very interesting thing. Intel's got a very interesting product on the horizon here that will launch sometime at the end of this year. Very interesting stuff. All right, so there you have it. That's gonna be Intel's roadmap for this year. Intel's gonna set the tone of 2026 for the enthusiasts. 2026 is going to feel like 2021 because of the Intel roadmap. Because of DDR5 prices, SSD prices, GPU prices, well, soon to be GPU prices, and the Intel roadmap. So that leaves AMD. So we need to figure out what is going to be the AMD window here, because AMD did 9850X 3D. So from the point of view of AMD's roadmap is kind of like a modified 2022 roadmap. So what do I mean by that? In 2022, what launched in that year from AMD? So let's underline this and let's draw this over here. 2022. You guys remember? Let me bring it up here. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with X3D. Ryzen 7 blank 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 blank. Something launched in April of 2022 from AMD. What was it? Mark got it. 5800X3D. 5800X3D. 5800X3D on AM4. AM4's final last hurrah. The most innovative thing AMD threw out there was the 5800X3D. So this is a modified. Remember what I said? 2026, looking at AMD's roadmap, is going to be like a modified mirror of 2022. 2022. The time frame, April 2022. Ryzen 7 5800X3D launches. And it immediately becomes the gaming king. The king of gaming. The review from Tech Power Up says the magic of 3D Vcache. This review was released on launch day, April 12th. April 12th, 2022. The AMD Ryzen 5800X3D is the talk of the town. AMD's 8-core David against the 16-core Intel Alder Lake Goliath. Wow, what an opening statement. It's the story of David and Goliath. 8-core David versus 16-core Goliath. So you had 5800X3D going to take on the might of Alder Lake in all its glory. The technology behind it, the slingshot, aka 3D vertical cache, announced way back at Computex in 2021, and it's finally here almost a year later. The Ryzen 5800X3D is AMD doing to Intel what it did to AMD a couple of years ago. The 9th gen Intel Core had lost multi-threaded performance leadership to AMD Zen 2 3000 series. So Intel created i9 9900KS to stamp its dominance on the gaming performance space, banking heavily on the slight IPC edge its Skylake cores still had, and their ability to run at 5 gigahertz all core. The Zen 3 CPU core has lost the IPC edge to Intel's new Golden Cove P-core, powering the 12th gen Alder Lake. So running a 5800X at insane clock speeds at the expense of efficiency and throwing out the 105 watt TDP would have meant AMD repeating a long line of Black Edition SKUs, reflecting badly on the engineering prowess. But AMD built up over the past couple of years. So they had to do something different, which is 3D vertical cache. AMD claims the Zen 3. So basically, what I'm getting at is the 9850 X3. Now you guys are probably seeing the parallels here. The 9850 X3D is similar to the 5800 X3D, meaning they put something out there, a refresh, or something of the previous architecture, or I guess the current, in this case, the current generation architecture. They launch some new thing, they just throw it out there and see what happens. And it won the gaming crown. So they basically retook the gaming performance crown with the 5800 X3D, and they didn't need DDR5 to do that. Now the reality is most Intel 12th gen owners were also on DDR4, just like me at the time. Now keep in mind, I never got, and in some ways I regret not getting a 5800 X3D all these years later. I never got one of these. At the time, I was using the Intel Core i7 12700K. When this thing launched. And this thing was so amazing when it came out that it caught the attention of the Star Citizen player base. All of a sudden, Star Citizen, people who played Star Citizen discovered the magic of 3D Vcache, and they never looked back. So you go ask anyone who plays Star Citizen, they'll tell you, man, it's X3D or you don't even play the game. X3D had the power to brute force through the unoptimized mess that was Star Citizen back in the day. And it only continued with X3D in the future. So the 5800 X3D launched in the spring of 2022. Now I know this thing is launching in the winter, so it's like January. But the same topic still stands. The same concept stands. This is to this as Nova Lake is to this. Or I guess Core Ultra 300 is to this. Meaning, where is paint? Okay. Sometime in the end of this year or early next year, sometime in Q4, I don't know when because they've shifted. Well, hold on. Okay, we're not done. Let me finish one thing. Later on in that year, September 2022, you guys remember what launched? What launched at the end of September in 2022? The year is 2022. You guys remember? AM5 and AMD Zen 4. Zen 4. Correct. AM5 launched. AMD's first DDR5 platform with PCI Gen 5. It launched in the same year as the 5800 X3D. So you had Zen 3 introduce Vcache, and then you had a brand new architecture launch later in the year. These are surprisingly close together. So what could end up happening? I guess maybe I should just throw this over here, but I'll just, yeah, it's kind of in the way. I'll just put it like this. So later this year, we will see, sometime in November of this year, it doesn't have to be November. It doesn't have to be November. I'm just going to say Q4. We will see Core Ultra 400 series LGA 1954, aka Nova Lake, will launch this year. It will launch this year. No matter what. No matter what happens with DDR5, rest assured, you will see the reviews of Lunar Lake, the reviews of Nova Lake before the end of this year. We will see 2 Intel launches, one in the spring, one in the fall. Now, what about Zen 6? Zen 6 is rapidly becoming the wild card here. The wild card. Because we don't know, like, the roadmap for this is a little bit blurry to me. It's kind of blurry. It's like, is it going to be Q4 or is it going to be Q1 of next year? I'm not sure. If things hold the way they're supposed to, Zen 6 should launch early into Q4. In fact, it could potentially launch before, like right before Core 400. It could be October. It could be September even. It could. I mean, it could. AMD historically doesn't wait until Q4 for their CPUs, at least for the last 2 generations. But it could also go over for some reason. And there is a good reason why it could go to next year. The reason why it could go to next year is because of wafer allocation due to AI. Keep in mind, AMD does not have the luxury that Intel has with their own fabs. AMD has to buy all their wafers from TSMC, which means AMD has to prioritize what product lines get what amount of wafers. So if they want to favor AI, if they want to favor mobile and the refreshes and all that stuff, well, then that means Zen 6 goes to 2027. So it's hard for me to say right now with high confidence that Zen 6 will come out this year. Normally, I would be very confident in saying, yeah, Zen 6 is going to come out before the end of the year. But I'm actually not super confident about that because AMD is harder to predict when it comes to CPUs because of what I just said. Because all their wafers come from TSMC, and they have all these product lines, and they've only gained more product lines over time, and now they got to spread out that wafer allocation across more things. So consumer desktop is not their highest priority right now, nor is it Intel's highest priority right now. In fact, it's hard, like both of them, I would say their highest priority is probably mobile chips. Definitely, that's true for Intel. For AMD, I'm not so sure. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell what they're prioritizing. Because is it AI? I don't know. Because it seems like no matter how much they try with the whole AI thing, NVIDIA always stays ahead of them. So it's like maybe they should concentrate their efforts on a more diverse strategy, which mostly is what they've been doing. So I don't know. It could be this year, like the end of this year. It could be next year. It's hard for me to say when Zen 6 is going to show up. But I don't know. It's like I want to say that it could launch in Q4 as like a low volume, low supply, almost like a paper launch. But it's hard to say. I'm not sure. But that's it. That's kind of where we stand. This is gonna either be, this is like either Q4 2026 or Q1 2027. AMD does have a track record when it comes to CPUs, desktop CPUs. They normally do Q1. Historically, they do Q1. They've also done Q3. So it could even be Q3, but I don't know about Q3. I kind of think Q4. If it's going to be this year, it'll get pushed to Q4. Now that kind of messes things up because it puts it too close to Intel. And I do not like when these guys launch their products too close to each other. I really don't like that.
RTX Pro 6000 price has come down to around 2.5 by 5090. Maybe I should get it then sell my 5090?
The price of the RTX Pro 6000? I don't think that's down in... Are you sure? I don't recall that ever going down in price. Are you sure? When I look it up right now, it's showing the typical 8,000 something dollars. Unless, based off of where you're located, maybe you're able to see it down to, well, 2.5x of... 2.5x of what, though? Of $2,000? 2.5 times 2,000? I don't think it's five... I've never seen it $5,000. When you say 2.5x of 5090, what is your reference price of 5090? When someone says 5090, I think $2,000. So 2.5 times 2,000 is $5,000. I've never seen an RTX Pro 6000 for $5,000. It's usually around 8,500. So I really don't think you need that graphics card, to be honest. I think you're gonna have buyer's remorse if you buy it, because unless you're doing some heavy inferencing workload, 2.5x times 3. That's still 7,500. I mean, that's cheaper than, that's like $1,000 less than what it normally goes for. But really, like $7,500 for a graphics card? That graphics card is meant for inferencing workloads, though. Like, it's not really meant for gaming. Like, what would you use it for besides gaming? I personally can't imagine spending that much money on a graphics card just to play games. Because it's really meant for a different thing. 2.5 8K gaming? I don't even think it's 8K gaming capable, though. Like, it's not strong enough to do 8K gaming. It has enough VRAM, but it doesn't have enough compute power to do 8K gaming. I don't know. I kind of think that's not meant for average consumers. But what are you going to do? You're going to sell your 5090 and buy that thing? I don't know about that. I mean, the 5090, you could sell it for a decent amount of money right now, but you're still going to lose money buying the RTX Pro card. You know what I mean? Like, you sell that for 3,000, this is 7,500. So you're still going to spend like $4,500 or just short of $5,000 for a, I don't know. Yeah, that, to me, that's like, I don't know how I feel about that. Especially since we're already so far into the lifespan of the Blackwell generation. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's kind of, I mean, yeah, it's faster, but is it really worth $5,000 faster? You know what I mean? Like, that's a really, I don't know. It's I'll tell you what I would do. I wouldn't buy it. I mean, I wouldn't buy it. I mean, you and I have the exact same 5090. I would not sell my 5090 to get an RTX Pro 6000, knowing that you still end up having to spend a ton of money. So, I don't know. the problem with being at the bleeding edge as an enthusiast, I know the feeling when you look at like, oh, there's like, it's like you have, you have the 5090, but then you know that there's that one graphics card out there that's better than the 5090. But you know what? You know what's also better than the 5090? Let me find it. They don't even have the chip. They don't even have it here. Okay, they have this. This is also better. This is also better than the 5090. This is better than the RTX Pro 6000. NVIDIA B300. This thing, GB110 X2, 18,944 times 2 CUDA cores. 592 times 2 TMUs. 24 times 2 ROPs. So apparently it's only 48 ROPs. 144 gigabytes times 2 of HBM3 on a 4096 times 2 bit bus. So this is also faster than a 5090, and it's even faster than an RTX Pro 6000. So this is the reason why I just treat RTX Pro 6000 as noise. It's noise. Just like how this thing is noise. So, do they have the price of this thing? Like, they're not even going to tell you how much it costs because it's like, look at that. The TDP, 1400 watt TDP. Suggested power supply, 1800 watt power supply. Suggested PSU, 1800 watts. That one PSU is barely able to handle one of these GPUs. What if someone wanted to put one of these in NVLink? Like they wanted to get another one. You know what I'm saying? Which is what most people do. This is like real talk. Like no one's going to run this by itself. Everyone's like running this thing in SLI. So it's like, yeah, this is... but they're also running like 6 power supplies. Let's be honest here. So, this is the reason why you just gotta pretend that the RTX Pro 6000 doesn't exist. Because, I mean, there's a saying, right? There's always a bigger fish. There's this thing. So, this thing is so expensive and so high-end that Tech Power Up doesn't even have... They can't even, like, put it into the chart because they can't afford one to test. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, $60,000 for... Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because, hold on, let me do the math real quick. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, server, Rubin, server, Hopper, all this stuff, Blackwell Ultra. Blackwell Ultra! Look at that, it's Blackwell Ultra. It's Blackwell Ultra. Oh man, I don't know what those AI guys are gonna do. Like if the bubble pops and they have all this compute and they don't know what to do with it because they can't find tenants. They're gonna like force cloud gaming onto gamers, man. They're gonna try to get this thing to like run a lot of games or something like that. So yeah, I mean this is the real deal right here. This is 592 tensor cores, which help improve the speed of machine learning. It's funny how it only has like 24 ROPs, though. It has all these CUDA cores, and it has like 24 ROPs. What is this thing? Like, what is the shape of this? Like, how does this even look? It's got like an extreme bottleneck there for tessellation. So you can tell how certain chips are made for certain things. The RTX Pro 6000 is not made for gaming. Just like this thing's not made for gaming. 24 ROPS mean graphics are not the use case. GeForce Gaming is using 5080 starting this month. You mean GeForce Now? Yeah, I don't know. I'm serious, guys. Like, GPUs are so dumb right now. Like, GPUs are retarded. Like, because what's gonna happen is, you guys already know. We talked about this, like, what, 2 weeks ago? 16 gigabyte, good value 16 gigabyte graphics cards are gonna become short supply. They're shorting the supply because of all the memory. So now, I mean, you guys can go look. Like, what's the price of an RTX 5090 right now? RTX 5090. Let's see Newegg. What do you got? Newegg is selling the Asus ROG Astral for $4,500. It's happening. It's happening. 2021. It's happening. The RTX the RTX 5090 is approaching $5,000. So it's happening, guys. It's happening. I told you this is gonna happen. It always starts with the highest end card and it trickles down. It trickles down. Hold up. RTX 5070 Ti. What is it priced at? Sold by Newegg. Wait, what? $1,000 for a 5070 Ti? What? It's happening. It's happening. The prices. Oh, man. What? Okay, it's happening. It's happening. 2021. 2021 is here again. It's 2021 all over again. Get ready for the Newegg Shuffle. Get ready for the return of Newegg Shuffle. It's gonna happen. I know it. I called it. You guys see it here. We're live right now. 2026 equals 2021. Newegg Shuffle. The return of Fix It, Fix It, Fix It, and the John Travolta meme streams. Oh boy, here we go. Here we go. 9850 X3D equals 5800 X3D. Arrow Lake Ultra 300 equals, or Arrow Lake Refresh equals Rocket Lake. Nova Lake equals Alder Lake. It is straight up, it is deja vu. How crazy. This year is basically a repeat of 2021. When they say history repeats itself, man, I didn't know they were being literal, you know? Like, this is literally history repeating itself. Well, 5080 is a dumb graphics card, but the problem is the 5070 Ti at $1,100 is not looking like a really good, attractive price either. Oh man, this is terrible. This is terrible. Hold on. 9070 XT. 9070 XT. Hey, 9070 XT is not going up. They are higher though. They are creeping up, but they're not creeping up as fast. Power Color Red Devil's approaching $900. But you can still get them for, well, they're all over 700 now. There's no more of those $599 holiday specials. Those are long gone. I'm looking at Newegg, 9070 XT. 9070 XT, Sapphire Pulse, $770. The Sapphire Nitro is $800. So even the 9070 XT is going up. Oh, the Monster Hunter Wilds Radeon RX 9070 XT is now $750. That thing was like, I think $600. It was $100 less a month ago. Yeah, well, actually, I think it was. Yeah, it was like $100 less. I remember because I was kind of tempted to get that Monster Hunter GPU, but I didn't do it. But now, because it comes with a code for Monster Hunter, like it includes the actual game, a Steam code in the box. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, that thing's $100 up now too. So even it's still these prices are still acceptable though. I wouldn't say these are terrible. Like I'm not gonna raise my hands and say panic mode, panic. No, these are still higher, but they're not bad. What about the Radeon AI Pro R9700? Because that thing's got a lot of VRAM in it. Oh, surprisingly, that card is still... Okay, it is going up. The AMD Professional Radeon AI Pro thing, the R9700 with the blower style cooler, that thing's going up. It is about $100 more. Well, it's only $100 though, so it's not a lot, but it is going up. But I'm surprised. Wow, 32 gigabytes of VRAM for $13.49 at Newegg. 32 gigs of VRAM for $13.49. That is still the best deal. You purchased the second GPU in March, Sapphire Pulse, open box. Now it's $770. Yeah, the AMD cards are going up, but they're not going up as much. People who complained about the price of PS5 Pro at launch will cry. Well, yeah, the consoles are more expensive. The Xbox Series X is what, $150 more than it was at its launch. Xbox Series X. Xbox Series X is at well, hold on. Sold by Newegg. They don't even have it in stock. Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody know if Microsoft is going to launch like a new console later this year or something? Like Xbox Series X seems to be hard to find for some weird reason. PlayStation 5 Pro. They don't even have PlayStation 5 Pro at Newegg. Oh wait, yeah, they do. Wait, what? $800? What? This has got to be a scalper trying to... Yeah, this is some random third party. Someone's trying to sell a PS5 Pro for $830. Man, the scalpers are starting to come in. The scalpers are showing up. I can see it on Newegg. There's all these listings. These are all scalpers. Yeah, man. Like I said, 2026 equals 2021. Enter the scalpers. Here it comes. Watch. Scalpers are going to start buying up all the NVIDIA GPUs. Watch this. All those 16 gig, 50, 60 ties. Check it. Oh, I didn't even check. 50, 60 tie. 50, 60 tie, 16 gig. Okay. $550. Is that what it's supposed to be? That doesn't sound right. That sounds way overpriced. What is this? What is the normal price on this thing? Hold on. What? You can tell I don't pay attention to low-end GPUs. RTX 5060 Ti. I don't even, if I'm having to Google the actual price, then I really don't pay attention to these GPUs. $429. $429. Not Micro Center. Newegg has this for $550. 570, 530, $650 for an Asus Prime. Disgusting. For a measly 5060 Ti. Yeah, this is really bad. Like, well, I've been talking about this for a while. I just didn't know it was gonna start happening in January. This is it. This is it. Scalpers are gonna probably try to. Well, they're probably already doing it. Although I think Newegg, if the retailers just arbitrarily just raise their prices, that'll stop scalpers. That'll stop most of the scalpers. If they start like, if this thing's supposed to be $430 and Newegg is charging $550 for it, scalpers aren't really gonna care because the thing is, there's no incentive right now to be buying up GPUs. The reason why there was a scalper problem back in 2021 was because of crypto. You had crypto people buying, and then a lot of them were like sidestepping and going direct. You guys remember when EVGA was caught like selling, and MSI was doing this too. MSI and EVGA were like were selling directly to crypto companies. I mean, there was like a lot of articles about that. They were just sidestepping the retail channel and just getting that quick sale. And then you had scalpers trying to like flip all these 3060 Ti's for like $900. It was disgusting. Well, this I don't think that's going to happen this year, but you know, you're just going to be bombarded with higher prices across the board. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see a scalper problem with these. Maybe with like, no. See, I don't know because I don't think 5090 is worth trying to scalp. Because if the prices naturally go up, there's way too much risk involved with paying like 4 grand, 5 grand for a GPU just to try to flip it for what? Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna drop that much money and then you're just gonna make what, like $500 or something back? Like, in profit, that's not worth the risk, you know? It's not going to be over with AI for a while. Yeah, the problem. See, okay, what's going on here? Like, we've explained this in a previous episode of Tech Thursdays. I've already explained why the AI bubble's not going to pop this year. So what's happening behind the scenes, and most people don't know this. So what's happening is we're in what's called a latency phase. Latency phase of AI. Meaning, there are a couple things that are happening that the public doesn't know about. Some people know about this, but not everybody knows about this. This is kind of like hidden secret knowledge behind the scenes. So this is where the conspiracy theorists, if they hear me talking like this, they're gonna be like, oh man, how does he know all of this? I'm not gonna say how I know all of this, but to summarize what's happening, there's a couple of things that are happening in 2026. Number one, secure. So let's say AI bros. Because remember there was the crypto bros, now it's the AI bros. The AI bros are securing power and real how do you spell real estate? Real estate? Did I spell that? That doesn't look, that's not the correct spelling. Real estate. Real estate. Did I spell it correctly? Is that the correct spelling for real estate? It doesn't look correct. Something looks weird about that word. AI bros are securing power and real estate. What do I mean by this? Most of the big ones have already secured real estate. That means they bought their buildings. They bought the land for their buildings. The power thing is they're negotiating electrical utility rates with the utility company. Okay, yeah, it's 2 words. All right. AI is currently in a latency phase. This is what's happening. AI bros are securing rack space and power and also real estate. So basically, right now, as we speak, the data center facilities that are going to house all of this AI, the next generation of all this AI compute, is being built as we speak. This is the reason why there's not a whole lot of stuff going on in the news about big breakthroughs in AI. That's because they're waiting around for all this stuff to be completed. They're waiting. It's like negotiating utility rates with power providers. So they're basically going to the municipalities in these like local governments throughout the states of the U.S., and this is true in other countries as well. And they're basically going to the governments, the local governments, and they're inviting them to the restaurants. They're wining and dining. They're showing them the restaurants. They're taking them to the football games. They're buying them tickets to maybe the Super Bowl. Who knows? I'm serious, guys. Like, this is real. If you guys don't believe me, then you're free to not believe me. But I'm telling you like it is. This is actually what's happening behind the scenes. So they're wining and dining with the local government officials, politicians, senators, representatives in Congress, local government people in like the state government level. They're taking them to the ball game. They're taking them to golf. They're taking them to the restaurants. And they're basically trying to lobby for lower rates that are below the traditional market value commercial electric power. They're not only are they doing this with government officials, they're doing this with the people who literally run the executives that run utility companies. You know, like the people who run the electrical grid. They're taking them golfing. They're taking them on the jet to Vegas. They're taking them to Disney. They're like giving their whole family full paid vacation to Hawaii or Disney World or whatever. You know, like whatever you want, that's it. That's how they're using their investor capital to help secure the AI factory. They gotta get the rack space and power. This is what's going on in 2026. And this was already going on in 2025. So, this is the reason why all those people saying, oh, AI bubble's gonna burst. AI bubble, I got news for you. It will burst, but it ain't gonna burst this year. Sorry, but we're in a latency phase. There's all of this activity going on right now. There's too much momentum happening behind the scenes that the average Joe is completely unaware of. So, I hate to break it to the enthusiasts, but sorry, but memory prices, SSD prices, GPU prices, they aren't going to come down in the next 6 to 8 to 10, 12 months. Ain't going to happen. That's the reality. So eventually the bubble will burst. I can tell you it's not going to happen right now. Not with all this stuff going on. I can guarantee you that. So there's a lot of money being thrown around right now. Eventually what's going to happen is they're going to get past this phase. They're going to go to build out phase, which is actually happening in parallel right now. So they're going to get to like rollout phase. So they turn up all the GPUs, sell the data center, AI, compute, like basically go get the customers start using the AI pods. You know, they're basically tenants. They're renting out the Blackwell, the Grace Blackwell, or the AMD MI series, or whatever they're using. They start actually using the service. This is probably going to be like realistically next year. Okay, roughly next year, 2028. We'll just say next year for now. Okay? Then, here's how it's going to pop. I'm going to explain to you guys how the AI bubble is going to pop. So, you get to this phase, which is probably going to really take off next year. And it could even take longer, but it's probably going to it's going to be in next year where it goes really big. So, how does it pop? Okay, you got customers using AI pods. Here's how it's going to pop. You have a customer that has to pay to use the GPU service. It's like cloud gaming, except this is AI as a service. So now you get to the point where the customers of these data centers have to start making money to hit their ROI. Now, I can pretty much guarantee everyone watching this live stream that a bunch of these companies, their business is going to fail. Their businesses are going to go under. I'm not talking about the AI bros. I'm not talking about the infrastructure guys. I'm talking about the customers of the AI bros, the tenants, the people who are renting the compute power. There are going to be winners and losers. Some will get a successful AI product, but the vast majority of them are going to have a failing business model that is going to just naturally fail because they can't attract enough customers or they can't sell the service at a attractive rate where people are actually going to sign up for the paid tier or whatever it is. So when that starts happening, when you start having multiple companies go out of business because they're AI startup companies that fail to attract a large audience of users, that is the signal of the beginning of the end of this bubble. That is when that starts happening, then we can say the bubble is going to pop. But until that happens, it ain't popping anytime soon. So it's definitely not going to happen this year. I can guarantee you that, because maybe next year it could happen. It depends on when you start seeing signals that certain AI startup companies are going out of business. When you start seeing a dozen of those companies start going out of business, filing for bankruptcy, mass layoffs, blah, 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 all this stuff, that is the sign that the bubble will burst. It will burst, but it's not a question of will it burst? It's a question of when will it burst. And I can tell you it's not gonna burst this year. So that is what's happening in the AI space. The reason why I pay attention to this is because knowing this helps me understand how this is going to play out. Because this stuff has a direct effect on all the enthusiast products. It can shift the timelines. It can mess with the timelines. It can force products to be delayed. It can force products to launch in a strange window where they normally wouldn't launch. For example, you could see GPUs launch in May of next year, which hasn't really happened in a very long time. I wouldn't be surprised. We've already talked about that. I've already told you guys when the RTX 6090 is going to launch. It's probably going to be May of next year, but we're going to leave it at that for now. The AMD GPUs are the biggest wild card. Basically, AMD is the largest wild card right now. They are the most unpredictable out of all these tech enthusiast companies. So, but hopefully this helps give some clarity on the confusion or the depressive state that the computer hardware industry is going to be into, because we are going to be weathering a storm. The whole year is going to be like this. So the whole thing about the AI slop. Okay, so again, if you look at the AI stuff at the surface level, like chat bots, like ChatGPT, then you really don't understand the full extent of AI. Like, there is way more with this AI stuff than just chatbots. Chatbots is like one business model, one use case of AI. So what's happening right now, like this whole thing, sell the data center compute, basically get the tenants, get the customers. That's what's happening now. And that'll also continue to happen next year. But ideally, what they're looking for is companies that have business plans to use AI in novel ways that hasn't already been done. So we're not talking about people that just want to run like a chat GPT in the cloud. Like that's not what this is. We're talking about people that are going to do medical. I'll give you one example. Leveraging AI to detect tumors in the stage where the human eye can't see the tumor. Even through so much pattern recognition. Even a radiologist with 25 years of experience in industry, being able to augment their ability to predict tumors for certain types of cancers. Like, use AI to do that. Because the AI can look at literally near limitless patterns based off of historical records. You know, these are the sort of things that they're going to leverage AI to do. Augment self-driving cars. Augment self-driving trucks. Augment robotics. These are the sort of things that they're talking about. We're not talking about ChatGPT or Sam Altman and OpenAI and all. No, we're talking about using AI for these other things that no one is talking about. So, it's clear that people don't actually work in these industries with some of these comments. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. This ain't going away anytime. The bottom line is this AI thing ain't going away as much as you wish it would go away. It ain't going away anytime soon. So, yeah, I have seen the other side. I know it's clear to me, just reading through the chat here, that I know a lot more about what's going on behind the scenes than the average person watching this stream. But we'll just leave it at that. The fact that we've already done some deep dives on how these things work, we did one last year. I forget which episode of Tech Thursdays it was, and then we did one recently, a few weeks ago, that was also not as, I would say it wasn't as in-depth at revealing certain aspects of this, but from a hardware level. But there was one that I did last year that was actually quite good. But yeah, if you're curious about how all of this works behind the scenes, you should definitely check out. I'll try to find, I don't know, let me see. Let me go look through it real quick. Let me find out which one it was. It was a while ago. It was like last, I think, November. Was it before the memory or the motherboard one? What did I call it? Micron. It wasn't Micron. Black Friday. No. Episode 132. Tech Thursdays, episode 132. NVIDIA's AI Factory Explained. Yeah, that was probably the most eye-opening Tech Thursdays episode that actually reveals the full extent of the AI. But anyway, so, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. This stream was actually quite long. Well, no. Well, for you guys, it was kind of short because I had to redo the whole thing because for some reason, YouTube didn't start broadcasting it until like 90 minutes after I had started the stream. So I apologize for that. For those of you, for those of you that stuck there the whole 90 minutes without me being actually live while I was talking to myself for 90 minutes, I do appreciate you guys sticking around. I was kind of questioning like what's going on. The audience isn't really responding to me, and then I just kept running with it, and then I finally realized, no one's actually watching me because for some reason I'm not actually like YouTube's not actually broadcasting me for some reason. So I had to like redo the whole thing, and then it actually worked the second time. So anyway, that's probably going to be it for this episode of Tech Thursdays. Let me just make sure that I covered all the things. Yeah, we talked about all the stuff, Nova Lake. All right, so that's going to be it. I'll probably be back tomorrow for one of the gaming live streams. We'll probably be doing Arknight's Enfield or Code Vein 2 or both. Similar to what I did yesterday. And, the other game that I might stream this weekend is Monster Hunter Wilds. Apparently, Monster Hunter Wilds, I saw this in my news feed, and I just kind of assumed it was like Nothing Burger. But apparently, Monster Hunter Wilds did do that big update that supposedly fixed all the quote-unquote performance issues with the game. So I do need to check that out. So we might actually stream Monster Hunter Wilds. But for what you can expect to see this weekend, besides Monster Hunter Wilds, is Arknight's Enfield. That's really the one game that I've been playing a lot recently since it released a week ago. Yeah, that game is really good. I mean, it's a lot to learn. It might be too much for the average person to sink into because it's just a lot. But if you can get past the initial learning curve, and it's got a very, very steep learning curve, there's too many multiple game styles, game genres all jammed into one game. There's a lot to like in that game, so I'll probably be streaming that. I may try to do Code Vein 2 again. I really wanted to like Code Vein, but Code Vein just kind of disappointed me for some reason. I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on it, but the game just doesn't feel... It just doesn't feel polished. Like, it doesn't feel like it should have launched when it did. I'm not the only one. Like, I saw the IGN review. They gave it a 6 out of 10, which I kind of agree with. Because when he talked about how it felt like there were certain things about it. Like, the camera is one thing. The camera, you fight a boss in a room, and the camera, if your back is to the wall, the camera like zooms in, you can't see your character, and all you do is the camera's like clipping through the boss, and you just can't see what's going on, and you just get steamrolled. So he complained about that. I had this exact same complaint. So there's just stuff about that game, this is very disappointing, man. As much as I wanted to like Code Vein 2, but it's just kind of, I don't know. I'll try to stream it again, but it's looking like Code Vein 2 is going to go on my list of one of my more disappointed games of 2026, unfortunately. Do you think Asus ROG... I mean, I wouldn't get the motherboard. I would not buy it. So, you need to look for a motherboard that has proper diagnostics. Like, you could probably get a similar motherboard, like an MSI Tomahawk or a Nova or something along those lines that have the diagnostic functionality. Because why would you settle for a motherboard that doesn't have diagnostics when you can pay a little bit more for one that does? That's my reasoning. So personally, if it was me, I'm not gonna buy that motherboard. Like, even if it was $223, I'm not gonna buy the motherboard. But you could decide if you want to or not. But that's my opinion. My opinion is don't buy that motherboard. I mean, I wouldn't buy it, even at that price. So, because I've purchased motherboards at that price. For example, the Gigabyte Gaming X. Where is that motherboard? Z590? No, Z690 Gaming X DDR4. This motherboard right here. this motherboard. This is the motherboard that I bought with the 12700K on the launch of the 12th gen CPUs. And it was the first motherboard that I purchased that didn't have a postcode debug. And I hated it. I hated the lack of no diagnostic functions. It had the little blinking lights, but you have this in a case, in a dark case, and you need to troubleshoot something, and all you have are these red lights. So what do you got to do? You got to go get a flashlight. You got to go turn the flash on your smartphone to shine it in the case, to go and look at which LED is blinking, because you can't tell which one's blinking just by looking at it. It's in a dark case. So yeah, no, never again. I told myself, like, no. And I ended up buying another motherboard that didn't have a postcode debug. The ASRock Steel Legend. That one didn't have a postcode debug. And I hated not having a postcode debug. So like no diagnostics. No. I ain't doing it. I've been there. I've done that. I know what it's like having a postcode or having a motherboard that has no postcode debug and then having to troubleshoot a problem and having no idea what's going on because there's no error code. So no, I ain't doing it. So that's my recommendation. I will not buy a motherboard that doesn't have a postcode debug. That is like a non-negotiable in my book. So I still have this motherboard. It's just like, I hated it the whole time I had it. It's DDR4. It's Intel's LGA 1700 with DDR4. This is my DDR4 Alder Lake / Raptor Lake motherboard. Oh yeah, Neo 3. Neo 3, we will be streaming Neo 3. I am aware that the demo is available now. In fact, I kind of don't want to burn myself out before the game actually launches, so I might boot up the demo just to check it out. I don't know if I'm going to stream the demo, but I may just, maybe, I don't know. I'll think about it. There's a bunch of stuff that I'd rather play, though, this weekend right now before Neo 3 comes out and basically, like, takes priority over all the other games. But, yeah, I don't know. I might stream it. If you guys really want to see me stream Neo 3, we can do it. I can stream it. The demo, that is, this weekend, maybe Saturday, I don't know. Yeah, you don't want to add it. It's not good to add it. It never works as good as if it was just on the board. Anyway, so that's going to be it, guys. So Code Vein 2, technically today is the day. Oh, today is the day of Code Vein 2. Yeah, okay. So no wonder the reviews are out. Code Vein 2, next week we have Neo 3. And then, oh, is Crimson Desert really in February? I thought it got moved. Crimson Desert looks like it's a very ambitious game. It's March. Okay, so I have it on the wrong month. I have it in February. Okay, I'm going to move that. Yeah. So it looks like, for me, Neo 3, and then the next game after Neo 3 is going to be Resident Evil Requiem. The new GPU? The new GPU? What new GPU? What's the new GPU? What new GPU? Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's probably going to be it for this episode of Tech Thursdays. If you're new to the channel, do get subscribed. We do this weekly show, all things technology, every Thursdays. And we often do gaming live streams on the weekend. So if you want to tune in and ask tech-related questions, if you were unable to catch the show live, you can do it during that time. And as always, thanks for supporting the channel, and I will catch you guys next week. Until then, take care and see you then. Thanks.